I feel superhuman.
Greetings.
Greetings. Oh, thank you.
Yes, my name is Michela Renee, and you're supposed to be where you're supposed to be, and nothing is by coincidence. And so I say that because I found Arnoux through my sweetheart here, and he already knew I was working with a lot of different students, and knew I had a gift for healing. However, there was, he could see that I was looping through certain types of emotions, and suggested that I take a course with Arnoux. So we actually came to a place, it was here actually. And when I began the process, it's almost so simple you miss it. Like, it's so simple you miss it, that the brain could decide to release this pain that's caught emotionally in the body and in your story. But as we were learning the course, I began to see why I was attracting certain types of people in my life over and over and over again. What I was attracting was predatory people. And I didn't understand my experience that I had that I needed to clear was why I was attracting people that were predators. And so predatory people, didn't matter if they were women or men, they just had a predatory nature. And I was raised by a Marine, which is really interesting. So you have a different type of sense, it's a family of Marines, down to my brothers. And so there's a different sense about things. So I could sense that they were predatory from the very beginning. But I would, something within me vibrationally would still keep drawing them to me. And I couldn't stop the cycle. And then find myself literally in a very bad circumstance over and over and over again, to the point that I would not have a home. I'd be homeless with my children. We always had food. Like, that was the thing that I would keep, my kids always have food, but I would always keep attracting the same looping circumstance. And so after we learned the 7 steps, and Myra and I went out on the patio deck outside, just around the way by the water, and we fully implemented everything that he taught, because we were doing it in here. And we were clearing I was clearing some basic things. When we dived into it and just released conditions, released the judgment of the self, of how it needed to let go. So if you needed to cry and have snot coming out your nose all over the place, then that's what was going to happen. Because sometimes we get caught up in our ego, like, I don't want it to look like that, So we're sitting outside, and all of a sudden I began clearing this statement regarding my mother. And this statement regarding my mother was the reason why I kept experiencing this predator. But the statement didn't feel like it had anything to do with this predator. The statement was that I was tired of moving. I'm tired of moving. Then all of a sudden it went into my mom, and I was making these statements. And all of a sudden it flashed where it was coming from. I knew the story, but I didn't know how deep it was, because there was a piece of this story that was caught still in my body. So when Arnoux says that you have these vent dreams afterwards, that lets you know that this stuff comes out. And I'm going to tell you, while I was out there, it took me over 65 statements of what you're about to learn today how to do. 65 times in one space of expression. That's a whole lot. So, and with tears, and I'm crying, it's just not pretty. And he's just literally saying, it's good, you're doing good. And he's holding space for me. By the next morning, I had one of these vent dreams and discovered exactly what it was. At 5 years old, I was abducted on Fresno State Campus University by the serial clown killer. So I'm one of the surviving children. And so I didn't remember what happened after he took me. I just remember going into on Fresno State, there's these rolling hills, and then there's these kind of dugout sort of building areas. And so he had taken me down there and told me to wait. And so from daylight to sunset, I'm down there. And my dad, being a Marine, always taught me, don't ever let them see that you're awake. If you're sleeping, you just stay awake. You stay asleep with your eyes just half slit open, And I remember saying, if I call my dad, and he can't hear me call my dad, I'm calling in my dad will come. Well, that's what I started doing. So telepathy does work, because my dad did hear me, and he was my rescuer. I couldn't remember what happened during that whole 9 hours. But there was very, very sad experiences that occurred. And it was during the vent dream that I saw it. But I didn't wake up like, oh my gosh, that's a horrible thing happened. I woke up, I said, Milo, I know what happened. And he's like, what happened, baby? And I'm starting to tell him, and I could tell him exactly what happened, and where I was at, and what it looked like, and where everybody else was in this game. And that piece was released. That in itself began the release of this predatory experience. So the women in my life, so-called friends in my life, all of a sudden started dropping off, because I was no longer housing this predatory energy anymore. So I give thanks for Arnoux for this extremely powerful tool, for this beautiful person to hold space for me, because once you begin to give the subconscious permission to let it go, then the whole year, I'm going to tell you, you get permission and you get to let it go. Get to let it go. With kisses on the microphone. So it feels good, because I don't get that thing in here where I want to cry and I can't speak about it. Like I can visualize it, and these things work. And I just want to say this before I hand this mic over. Merritt was talking about with children being afraid of the dark and then healing that thing, being afraid of the dark. My grandbaby, who's 3 years old, saw her dad hit his hand on the ground and break it. And it caused some emotional stress in her. And I went and did that tool on a 3-year-old. And she told me, Mimi, it flew away. That's how she expressed it. It flew away, and it took us a total of 10 minutes to find the words that a 3-year-old has about that experience. She said, it flew away. I was like, oh my God. That's when you know you're doing stuff. Yeah. So just give thanks. Tears come different ways now. This is really a great time. Yeah, last time I was here, I was crying. I kept crying. Now it's like, oh, I can talk about this. So thank you.
Thank you.
For your free training on how to skyrocket energy levels in 30 minutes or less, visit TotalHealthMasteryUSA.com. The results and benefits of our training program are only available to members of our private association.